The enormous ship appeared silently over New York City on a clear May morning in 2087. It hung in the air like a silver droplet, reflecting the sunlight on the horizon. No weapons were fired. No demands were made. He simply waited. Commander Alan Winters stood on the roof of the United Nations building, binoculars pressed to his eyes. His uniform felt too tight around his neck as he watched smaller ships separate from the main ship. "Are we ready for this?" asked Samantha Brooks. She smoothed her navy blue diplomatic uniform and checked her translator one last time. Alan lowered the binoculars. "No one is ready for first contact, Sam." The alien delegation landed precisely where Earth's governments had designated. No errors. No fuss. They had clearly been observing and learning Earth's languages for some time. Ambassador Zorlith appeared first. It walked on 4 legs with 2 upper limbs that ended in hands with 7 fingers. His skin glowed blue-green in the sun, and a breathing apparatus covered what Alan assumed was his face. "Welcome to Earth," Samantha said, stepping forward with her hand outstretched, and quickly withdrawing it as she remembered the briefing on possible contamination protocols. The alien's translator chimed. "We bring greetings from the Galactic Council. 17 sentient species united in peace and mutual advancement." Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered urgently into microphones. This moment would be remembered for centuries. 3 days later, Alan and Samantha were sitting in a secure conference room beneath the UN building. Representatives from every major nation on Earth filled the seats around him. Ambassador Zorlith displayed holographic images of beautiful alien worlds, advanced technologies, and medical marvels beyond human imagination. "The Council offers Earth full membership," Zorlith said. "You will receive technology, trade agreements, and protection. But first, we must sign the War Prohibition Treaty." The room fell silent. "What exactly does this treaty entail?" asked the Secretary General. Zorlith's breathing apparatus made a hissing sound. "War has been prohibited in Council space for over 700 cycles, approximately 3,000 of its Earth years. No member species may maintain military forces, develop weapons, or engage in armed conflicts of any kind." Alan felt his stomach tighten. He exchanged glances with the Joint Chiefs representative across the table. "What if we refuse?" asked the American president. "So we cannot offer membership." Zorlith simply said that the Council will not risk introducing a warlike species into our peaceful society. That night, Alan found Samantha on the building's observation deck, looking at the alien ship that still hovered over the city. "They think we are barbarians," she said without turning around. Alan leaned against the railing. "Maybe we are. Human history is not exactly peaceful. But, without having armed forces, how do they deal with conflicts?" Ambassador Zorlith explained to me that previously, Alan said, they used debate, economic sanctions, or, at worst, ceremonial duels between representatives. Samantha shook her head. "And it works. For them, yes. Most Council species evolve as prey, not predators. They don't have our instincts for territorialism or aggression. Do you think we can do this? Just give up the war." Alan watched distant lights shine on the alien ship. "I don't know, but I think we need to try." "What are they offering?" "Medical advances, clean energy. Faster than light travel, it could transform humanity." The next morning, Earth's representatives met again. After 12 hours of heated debate, they reached an agreement. Earth would sign a MO version of the treaty, agreeing to a probationary period of 5 years. When the documents were finalized, Alan noticed Ambassador Zorlith watching him closely. His breathing seemed faster than normal. "Is something wrong, Ambassador?" Alan asked. "No, Commander. I'm simply curious. Your kind so readily agrees to abandon the war, yet your pulse indicates stress. The dilation of your pupil suggests uncertainty." Alan smiled. "Slightly. Change is always difficult, even good change." Zorlith made a gesture that Alan couldn't interpret. "Indeed, the Council has high hopes for humanity's contribution to galactic peace." When the foreigner returned to his delegation, Samantha stood by Alan's side. "Did you see how I was studying you?" she whispered. Alan nodded. "They're afraid of us, Sam. I think they've been afraid since they discovered Earth. So what is this treaty? A collar? Perhaps. Or maybe it's their way of giving us a chance." Alan watched as Earth's leaders signed the documents that would forever change the future of humanity. "I guess we'll find out." 6 months after first contact, hundreds of humans visited alien worlds while alien diplomats studied Earth. The cultural exchange program was in full swing, bringing new discoveries every day. Dr. Olivia Miller walked through the Great Hall of the Galactic Council Central Museum on Selner Prime. The building stretched for miles, filled with art and artifacts of 17 different species. As xenoanthropologists, this was their dream come true. "Your species moves very quickly," said your guide, a tall, slender alien named Alith. "Most new members take years to travel so widely between the council worlds." Olivia smiled. "Humans are naturally curious." "Maybe too curious," muttered Alith, leading her to a new exhibit. That same day, Lieutenant Frank Delgado demonstrated basic self-defense techniques to a group of fascinated Marillion scholars in the Earth Embassy gym. The cap-shaped aliens watched with wide eyes as Frank placed his partner on a mat. "This is just defensive training," Frank explained as his audience shuddered. "We're not trying to hurt each other." A Marillion raised a hairy hand. "But why train for physical conflict? The council has mediators for all disputes." Frank wiped the sweat from his forehead. "Old habits. I think. Humans have been training this way for thousands of years." Later, Frank described the encounter to Olivia during dinner in the embassy cafeteria. "They looked at me like I was some kind of monster for knowing how to throw a punch." Olivia nodded thoughtfully. "I have been studying the evolutionary history of the council species. Most of them evolved as prey, not predators. They never developed our fight or flight responses, so they just had the flight part." Frank asked, stabbing a piece of strange vegetable with his fork. "Basically, their instinct has always been to run or hide, not to stand still and fight. This shaped their entire civilization." The next morning, Olivia met with Commander Winters, who had arrived to check out the cultural exchange program. They walked through the embassy gardens, talking quietly. "I think we're missing something important here." Olivia said that the council species are physically afraid of conflict. "It's not just a cultural preference, it's linked to your biology." Alan frowned. "This would explain the reaction to our military history museums." Ambassador Exorlath almost fainted when he saw the exhibition on World War II. "There's more," Olivia continued. "Yesterday, a culinary scholar accidentally accessed restricted military files. Filming Desert Storm made him physically ill." Alan stopped walking. "This complicates things if they are biologically predisposed to fear conflict. So they may never truly understand humans." Olivia finished. "And what they do not understand, they will fear." That night, while most humans were sleeping, Samantha Brooks received an urgent message from her contacts at the council. She found Alan in the embassy's secure communications room. "The council is debating whether humans are too dangerous to join the galactic community," she said without preamble. Alan looked up from the screens. "Based on what?" "We follow all the rules they set. Apparently, some counselors have been monitoring our cultural exhibitions, training sessions, and even our entertainment. They are concerned about our self's inherent aggression." "We were completely transparent," Alan argued. Samantha sighed. "It may not matter. I've been doing some research on my own. The reason the council banned war was not just philosophical. The last great galactic war ended with the extinction of 3 entire species." Alan's expression darkened. "When?" "About 3,000 years ago, shortly before the signing of the War Prohibition Treaty." Alan went to the window, watching the twin moons rise over the alien city. "So it's not just about keeping the peace. It's about survival trauma on a galactic scale." "The council races aren't just afraid of war," Samantha said calmly. "They are afraid of extinction. And now they have invited humans, predators with a long history of warfare, into their midst." "They want us to change our nature," Alan said. "But I'm not sure we can. Or should." Samantha joined him at the window. "There is something else. Some sources mention species on the galactic edge that refuse to sign the treaty. They are not on the board, but they still exist. Other predator species. Possibly. We should find out." Alan nodded slowly. "If we are to survive here, we need allies who understand us. And perhaps the board needs to understand that sometimes being able to fight is not a weakness. It's a strength." The small human ship moved silently through the stars at the edge of council space. Commander Alan Winters was on the bridge, observing the unknown constellations. Their mission wasn't exactly banned, but it wasn't officially approved either. "We're approaching the border," Lieutenant Gray Harris said from the pilot's seat. "The Vral homeworld must be 6 hours beyond that." Alan nodded. "Any sign of municipal patrols?" "None, sir. They rarely got this far." Samantha Brooks joined them on the bridge, reviewing data on her tablet. According to our intelligence, the Vral have been observing humanity for decades. They know we're coming. The Vral homeworld looked stark and beautiful in orbit. Red deserts, blue seas, and vast cities. As they descended to the surface, Alan saw massive structures that looked like defensive walls surrounding the settlements. They are prepared for attacks. Samantha whispered, "Look at these fortifications." The airstrip was inside a military complex. Armed guards waited for them. Tall reptilian beings with scales that changed color in the sunlight. They stood on powerful legs, their eyes following the human visitors' every movement. An older Vral stepped forward. "Commander Winters, welcome to Vral Tech. I am General Score." Alan extended his hand in the human salute, surprised when the alien imitated the gesture perfectly. "Thank you for having us, General. We were waiting for you." Score said that since your kind joined the council, we knew you would eventually come looking for us. General Score led them through hallways, lined with what appeared to be weapons and battle trophies. On the contrary from the council chambers, with gentle curves and calm colors, Vral architecture featured sharp angles and practical designs. "Your people have been watching us?" Alan asked as they entered a large meeting room. "Of course, you are just like us. Predators in a galaxy of prey." Score pointed to seats around a table. "We were curious to know how long you would tolerate the council's restrictions." Samantha leaned forward. "The War Prohibition Treaty, you mean?" The general made a sound like a harsh laugh. "A treatise written by prisoners who never understood the need for defense." Yes, holographic displays were activated around them, showing images of Earth, human military ceremonies, and spacecraft designs. "You evolved like us." Score continued to hunt, protect the territory, and fight when necessary. He touched a control, and the images changed to show a different alien species, an insectoid with multiple limbs and armored exoskeletons. "The Krekther Horde," he said sternly. "They live outside the council space and have been watching, preparing, waiting." Alan studied the images closely, waiting for what? Out of weakness. Score's scales darkened. The council has been at peace for 3,000 years. They forgot how to fight. They have no defenses, no warriors, no will to resist. "What about Krekther?" Samantha asked. "They are coming." Brief. "We have all been preparing for centuries, building defenses, training fighters. But we are few and they are many." Alan exchanged glances with Samantha. "Why wasn't the council notified?" "We tried. They dismiss our warnings as barbarians because they are drug dealers. They refuse to believe that any species would choose violence when peace is offered." Score's voice lowered. "They don't understand that some predators see peace only as weakness." Later, as the humans prepared to leave, General Score pulled Alan aside. "Your people have something the council needs, even though they don't know it." "What is that?" "The warrior spirit. The willingness to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." Score placed a data crystal in Alan's hand. "Take this. Contains our information on Krekther movements. Perhaps your people will listen where the council would not." The trip back to the council space was uneventful. Every human lost and fought. As they approached the border, alarms suddenly sounded. "Council patrol ships approaching," Greg announced. "They are ordering us to stop for inspection." Samantha looked at Alan with concern. "They know where we've been." Alan pocketed the fight data crystal. "We knew this could happen." When they docked at the municipal station, security agents were waiting. A tall Zelnari officer stepped forward. "Commander Winters, Diplomat Brooks." The council called for an investigation into his unauthorized contact with non-member species. Alan straightened his uniform. "We will answer your questions." As they were escorted away, Samantha whispered, "What if the fight is okay? What if the Krekther are really coming?" Alan kept his voice low. "Then the council will have to choose between its principles and its survival, and humanity will have to decide where we stand." The council's inquiry lasted 4 days. Alan and Samantha spent hours asking questions about their visit to the Brawl homeworld. They responded truthfully, but said nothing about Krekther's warning or the data crystal. On the 5th morning, they were cleared of serious violations, but received an official reprimand. As they left the courtroom, a message arrived on Samantha's communication device. A council science ship fell silent. She told Alan calmly, "I was near the outer edge, studying a nebula." Alan frowned. "Accident? It's not clear, but it's in the sector that the fight warned us about." 2 days later, the board held an emergency meeting. Representatives of all 17 member species gathered in the large circular chamber. Ambassador Kakeserlath spoke from the central platform. The scientific vessel Stellar Seeker was lost with all 86 crew members. Initial data suggests a possible attack, but we have no confirmation. Murmurs echoed through the chamber. The word attack was rarely spoken here. This is worrying, said Representative Marillion, but we shouldn't jump to conclusions. Space is dangerous. Many natural phenomena could explain this loss. Most council members nodded in agreement. Only a few seemed genuinely concerned. Alan leaned toward Samantha in the human section. They don't want to believe it could be an attack. Can you blame them? Your society has known peace for thousands of years. After the meeting, a small blue alien approached them in the hallway. Humans. One word. Please. They followed him to a quiet alcove. I am the representative of the Nilirian people in Trellick. Some of us are concerned about recent events. The missing ship? Alan asked. Trellick looked around nervously. Not just a ship. 3 outposts in our outer colonies have gone dark in the last month. Council leadership is keeping quiet to avoid panic. Samantha's eyes widened. Why are you telling us this? Because your species understands danger. You prepare for it. You face it. Trellick's voice trembled slightly. We need this now. Later that night, Alan met with the human delegation in a secure room. He placed the Vral data crystal on the table. The Krekther are real, and they are already here. The Council won't acknowledge the threat, but we need to investigate. Navy Captain Kate Donovan spoke. My team can do this. Small ship, minimal crew. We can get in and out quickly. This goes against the Council's rules, warned the political leader. Sometimes rules need to be broken to save lives. Kate replied. A week later, Kate's ship approached the last known location of the missing science vessel. They went dark. Passive sensors only. Slow approach, Kate ordered. No transmissions. Through the viewing screen, they saw debris floating in space. Pieces of the scientific vessel were scattered over a wide area. Get us closer to that big section, Kate said, pointing to a piece of the hull. As they approached, the sensor officer gasped. Captain, I'm detecting organic material on the hull. And bite marks. Kate's face paled. Record everything. We need evidence that the Council cannot ignore. They moved carefully through the debris field, documenting the destruction. Suddenly, the tactical officer shouted. Multiple contacts. Large ships appearing behind the moon. On the viewing screen, huge insectoid vessels emerged from hiding. Their hooves were dark and organic in appearance, covered in spines and sensory appendages. Evasive action. Kate ordered. Get us out of here now. Their small ships sailed away as the Sector ships pursued them. They narrowly escaped, jumping faster than the speed of light just as enemy gunfire passed them by. 3 days later, Kate presented her findings to the human delegation. The images showed clear evidence of the attack and the Sector ships. It's worse than we thought, she said sternly. Based on their movements, they have already conquered at least 6 outer colony worlds. They are methodically leveraging board space, starting at the edges. Alan rubbed his face tiredly. The Council still doesn't want to listen. They called our evidence warmongering and human propaganda. Samantha got up. So we need to find allies within the Council. Someone must see the truth. Some already do, said a voice from the door. Trellis entered with representatives of 3 other species. We've been watching. Apprenticeship. We know what's coming. He looked at the humans with big solemn eyes. Will you help us prepare for war? Even if it means breaking the treaty that brought him into our community. Alan looked at the human delegation and then at the alien who came for help. Yes, he said simply, we will. 3 weeks passed as secret meetings continued between humans and concerned council members. Then everything changed. The Krekther attacked Proxima Colony, a major settlement with over 12 million inhabitants. Videos of the raid reached the council before any official report. The images showed insectoid warriors swarming through the streets, capturing civilians and destroying buildings. The council chamber panicked. Representatives shouted at each other as the leadership tried to maintain order. We must evacuate the outer colonies. One cried. We should try to communicate with these beings, suggested another. Perhaps we can offer them resources in exchange for peace, proposed a third. Alan watched from the human section, his face grim. The council had no idea how to deal with an enemy who wanted conquest, not compromise. They'll keep talking as more worlds fall, Samantha whispered. Admiral Linda Reyes recently arrived from Earth. He nodded. This is why Earth made its decision. The next day, the United Earth government announced that it would break the War Prohibition Treaty to defend humanity and the Council's innocent species. The statement was broadcast throughout the Council space. Humanity cannot stand by while innocent beings are massacred, said the President of Earth. We have activated our defense forces and are sending the first expeditionary fleet to establish a defensive line. Council leadership immediately called an emergency session. Ambassador Korlev addressed the humans directly. This action violates the treaty you signed. Earth could face expulsion from the Council. Admiral Reyes stood up. With all due respect, Ambassador, expulsion is preferable to extinction. The Krekther have already conquered 8 worlds. How many more will fall while the Council debates? War is not our path, Korlev insisted. So let it be our way. Reyes responded firmly. Let humans fight so others don't have to. The room fell silent as his words sank in. 3 days later, human warships arrived at Torval Station, an important hub near the advancing Krekther front. The Council species watched in awe as the military ships moved into defensive positions. Marines established security checkpoints and weapons platforms were deployed. Admiral Reyes called a meeting with local authorities. We need to organize evacuations from threatened systems, she explained, and establish supply lines for our forces. The Excelenary Administrator looked confused. But how will you stop Krekther? There are so many of them. We will not try to match their numbers, Reyes said. She activated a holographic display showing battle plans. We will use tactical withdrawals, defensive perimeters, and strategic attacks. These are concepts your people may not be familiar with. You talk about war as if it were a science, said a horrified council member. It is, Reyes replied simply, something that humanity has studied for thousands of years. Word spread quickly. Many of the council species were disgusted by human methods, but the Krekther's fear was stronger than their distaste for war. Refugee ships began arriving on Earth by the thousands as people fled the outer colonies. In a surprising development, Vral has directly contacted Earth. We will join your alliance. General Skor announced. Our warriors are ready. Humans and Vral work together to establish a defensive line across 3-star systems. Meanwhile, the Council worlds have begun the difficult process of converting civilian infrastructure to war production under human guidance. Dr. Olivia Miller found herself teaching alien engineers about military logistics. Its food processing facilities can be modified to produce combat rations, she explained. Its passenger ships can be adapted to transport troops. Many aliens were reluctant, but fear led them to accept human help. Some even volunteered to train as support staff. At the Earth Embassy, Alan met with Samantha and Admiral Reyes. The board is officially condemning our actions, Samantha reported, but privately. More representatives are approaching us every day, offering resources. Will it be enough? Alan asked. Admiral Reyes studied the strategic display showing sectors advance. It has to be. The defensive line will be ready just before they reach Proxima Prime. That's where we position ourselves. What if we fail? Samantha asked calmly. Alan's expression was solemn. Then humanity will have broken the peace for nothing. And the Council's fear of war will have been justified. The human base at Proxima Colony was buzzing with activity. In makeshift training camps, human military advisors taught alien volunteers basic combat skills. Most had never held a gun before. Lieutenant Frank Delgado demonstrated how to properly protect himself to a group of nervous Selenarians. Stay down. Use solid objects to protect yourself. Remember, if you can see the enemy, he can see you too. The aliens imitated his movements awkwardly. Their bodies were not built for quick dives or combat roles, but they tried their best. Why do we practice retreat? Asked the Selenary. Isn't that giving up? Tactical withdrawal is not giving up. Frank explained patiently. It's moving to a better position. Sometimes surviving is winning. On the other side of the base, Dr. Livia Miller worked with council engineers to convert civilian factories to military production. The concept was foreign to them. Its medical manufacturers can make anti-trauma kits with minor adjustments, she said. Your communication devices need stronger encryption. An engineer looked worried. These changes feel wrong. We build these things to help people, not for war. They'll still help people, Olivia said gently, just now in a different way. In orbit above the colony, Admiral Rice coordinated with the fleet captains. Human ships formed the backbone of the defense, but vessels from 6 different species of the Council joined them, hastily equipped with weapons systems. The Crichther will arrive within 48 hours, Rice told his officers. Intel suggests at least 30 capital ships with fighter support. Captain Eric Mason studied the tactical display. They outnumber us 3-1. Numbers aren't everything, Rice responded. We have better positioning and surprise. They don't expect resistance. The next day, while final preparations were being made, Commander Alan Winters passed by a civilian shelter. Families of different species huddled together, scared but resolute. Children from different worlds played together, unaware of the approaching danger. Alan saw Samantha talking to a group of council employees. Your face looked like you then. How are they behaving? He asked softly when they had a moment alone. They're scared, she said, but something interesting is happening. Council psychologists are documenting what they call a new phenomenon among their people. What is that? The will to fight, she said. They have never seen this before in their species, individuals volunteering to defend others, preparing to face danger rather than flee from it. Alan observed a group of Marillion volunteers receiving basic first aid training. They are learning from us. Yes, but not just how to fight. Dr. Miller identified something important about how humans wage war compared to the ancient conflicts that traumatized the Council. What is that? We strive to end conflicts quickly and minimize suffering, not prolong it. The wars that led to the treaty were about extermination, not victory. The conversation was interrupted by alarms. Admiral Rice's voice came over the communication system. All personnel to battle stations, correcting the firefighters who were approaching earlier than expected. What followed was chaos for those who had never experienced battle before. The human commanders issued calm, precise orders as the Council volunteers moved to their assigned positions, many visibly shaking. The first attack came from orbit. Correct fire ships fired at the colony's outer defenses. Human and allied ships moved to intercept, engaging the enemy in space. On the ground, Frank organized his alien interns. Remember your training. Stay in formation. Support each other. The sky lit up with explosions as the space battle intensified. Then came the ground attack. Ships carrying Crichther warriors breached the perimeter in several locations. Alan joined a defensive position with a mixed group of humans and Council volunteers. The first wave of insectoid warriors attacked the barricade. Many alien volunteers froze in terror on the spot. Hold the line, Alan shouted above the gunfire. Together, a young Selenari next to him found courage and raised his weapon. Others followed suit. They fought side by side with humans, overcoming instinctive fear. Hours later, the battle ended. The colony was still standing. The Crichther was repulsed with heavy losses. Images of the battle spread throughout the Council space. Humans fighting alongside aliens, protecting each other, displaying a controlled savagery that terrified and inspired those who watched. For the first time in 3,000 years, the war witnessed by the galaxy was fought not for conquest or extermination, but for protection. The victory at Colonia Proxima changed everything. For the first time, the Crichther advance was halted. More Council worlds sent ships and volunteers to join the human-led defense. Even the Council leadership, while still officially condemning the war, secretly provided resources and intelligence. Admiral Reyes assembled her command staff in the war room of her flagship. Maps and holographic displays showed Crichther positions throughout the sector. They are regrouping, she said, pointing to a cluster of enemy ships near a dead star. This gives us an opportunity. It's time for Operation Hornet's Nest. Captain Eric Mason studied the plan. We are deliberately attracting them to us. This is risky. It is necessary, Reyes responded. We cannot match them ship for ship across the entire front. We need to choose where we will fight. 3 days later, human and allied ships began a calculated withdrawal from key positions, leaving just enough defenders to make the targets tempting. The Crichther took the bait and moved their main focus to directing action to what they considered weaknesses in the human lineage. They are following exactly the path we predicted, a sensor officer on Reyes' command ship reported. All ships maintain position. Reyes ordered, let them come to us. When the Crichther fleet entered the Tala system, they found themselves trapped in a carefully planned trap. Hidden Allied ships emerged from behind moons and asteroid fields. Automated weapons platforms activated. The prepared battlefield gave the defenders every advantage. In the midst of the chaos, Captain Mason led a daring mission. While the main fleets engaged, their small strike team boarded a Crackther command ship. "Stand firm," he told his team as they cut into the hull of the alien ship. "We need navigation data and command protocols." The boarding party fought its way through narrow corridors filled with insectoid warriors. The aliens were fierce but disorganized, unaccustomed to enemies who would dare board their ships. Mason arrived at the command center with half of his team. "Download everything." He commissioned a technology expert. "We need to understand how they communicate." Alarms sounded as more Crackther warriors converged on their positions. "Sir, we have the data, but they have blocked our escape route," his second-in-command reported. Mason looked at the schematics of the ship they captured. "There is another way." Through the engine section, the team fought a running battle on the ship. In the engine room, they discovered something unexpected: a central communications node linking the ship to the entire Crackther fleet. "That's it," said the technology expert enthusiastically. "Your nexus of coordination. Each ship has one, and they are all connected." "Can we disrupt this?" Mason asked. "Yes, but someone would need to stay behind to carry the virus." Mason made his decision instantly. "Take the team to the escape pods. I'll take care of it." Despite protests, Mason ordered his team to leave. Alone, he fought the Crackther warriors while uploading a disturbing code into his communications system. The escape pods were launched just before the explosions rocked the enemy ship. Back on the flagship, Admiral Reyes received news of Mason's sacrifice and captured data. "Take this information to our scientists immediately," she ordered, his voice strained with emotion. Within hours, Council scientists working with human military strategists identified a critical vulnerability in the Crackther network. "Their ships work like a hive," explained scientist Selnery. "They require constant communication to coordinate. Captain Mason's data shows us how to disrupt the entire network." Admiral Reyes nodded grimly. "So we need to reach their main coordination nexus." "Where is it located?" The scientist pointed to a system deep in space controlled by Crackther. "Here, but it is heavily defended. It would be a one-sided mission." Surprisingly, volunteers of all species appeared. Humans, Vral, and even council races. A joint strike force was assembled, including members from 12 different species. As they prepared to leave, Alan found Samantha in the memorial garden. A hologram of Captain Mason was added to monuments honoring the fallen. "I never thought I would see council species volunteering for combat missions," Samantha said calmly. Alan observed a group of mixed-species fighters training together nearby. "They are learning that some things are worth fighting for. If this works, if we can paralyze the Crackther coordination network, we can actually win this war." "And then what?" Alan asked. "Does the galaxy go back to pretending that war doesn't exist? Or do they finally understand why humans never did they give up completely?" Samantha looked thoughtful. "Maybe. They will find a middle way. One where fighting is not prohibited. Just reserve it for when you really need it." A year after the end of the war, representatives of all council species gathered on Earth for a historic summit. The Great Hall of the United Earth Government Headquarters was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Commander Alan Winters, now promoted to Admiral, was in the back of the room. He watched as alien diplomats mingled with human military officers, no longer afraid of what they represented. "A big change since our first council meeting," said a familiar voice. Samantha Brooks joined him, dressed in the formal robes of her new position as senior council representative. Alan nodded. "At that time, they wanted us to give up our military completely. Now they're here to talk about a new galactic defense force." In the center of the hall was a simple monument, a piece of the Krekvar ship's hull with the names of all who died in the final battle in the coordination center. The mission was successful, but at great cost. Without its central command structure, the invasion of Krekvar fell apart. Their ships scattered and were eventually defeated. "It's time," Samantha said calmly. The room fell silent as she walked to the podium. Representatives of 17 species from the council, beyond the fray and humanity, turned to listen. "A year ago, our worlds faced extinction," Samantha started. "Today, we come together to ensure this never happens again. The War Prohibition Treaty has served us well for 3,000 years, but it has left us vulnerable. Today, we signed a new treaty." She held up a document for everyone to see. "War remains prohibited except for defensive purposes. No species can wage war for conquest or resources, but all will contribute to our collective defense." The signing ceremony was simple. Each species added its stamp to the new treaty. Then Admiral Reyes stepped forward to present the structure of the new Galactic Defense Force. Humans would serve in key leadership positions, sharing their knowledge with all member species. We keep the peace by being prepared for war, Samantha concluded in her opening speech. This is the lesson that humanity has taught us. After the ceremony, Alan walked through a memorial garden outside the building. Stone markers honored those of all species who fought together. An eternal flame burned in the center, a human military tradition now adopted by grateful alien worlds. General Score of the Feral found him there. The council species learned quickly, he noted. They already talk about defense strategies and security protocols as if they had always known these things. They are adapting. Alan responded, as did we. Across the galaxy, changes were happening. The world councils maintained their focus on art, science, and peaceful cooperation, but now they also built defense systems and training facilities. Human military academies have welcomed alien cadets. For all warriors taught alongside human instructors. On distant planets, alien children learned a new version of the story of how humans were once feared, then needed, and finally respected. They learned that sometimes fighting was necessary to protect what was most important. In a moment of silence during the reception, Ambassador Zorlith approached Alan. I must admit that my people were wrong about yours. Commander, forgive me, Admiral Winters. Like this? Allah did not ask. We saw his warrior nature as a flaw, something primitive to be overcome. We failed to understand that it was also a force. Zorlith's breathing apparatus emitted a soft whoosh. Bio, your people fight not because you love violence, but because you love what you protect. At the end of the day, Alan found Samantha on a balcony overlooking the celebration. What happens now? He asked. Now we build something new, she said. A galaxy that values peace, but understands the need for strength. One that does not prohibit war, but channels it appropriately. They watched the sun set over Earth, the first human world to join the stars, and now the center of a transformed galactic community. In the distance, a frail old man was talking to a group of young aliens from different worlds. Although Alan couldn't hear the words, he knew the lesson being taught. The same thing that all species now understand. The galaxy feared human warfare and banned it until it needed it. Now they had found the wisdom to use it properly, not as a first response, but as a last resort. Not for conquest, but for protection. And in doing so, they created a peace stronger than any treaty could guarantee. A peace protected by those who understood the true cost of war.